Joining us on this topic and so much more, an expert on all things internet trends, Gary Vaynerchuk is here, CEO of VaynerMedia. It's great to see you, Gary. So much to talk about. I want to also talk about NFTs and Coinbase and so much else. But let's just start with this, because I think you have a better understanding and your finger on the pulse of this world in a way that, frankly, so many of us, including myself, really do not. What do you think is happening here?
I think the internet is maturing. You know, the consumer internet is now getting into its 25, 30-year window, and people are realizing that the masses, communities can come together, started as message boards on AOL, and we've seen it go after or create trends or start memes or do things of that nature. But now we have an entire generation that is growing up really excited about being an entrepreneur, really excited about investing, really excited about flipping and trading, and communities get excited in groups and decide to go and do things. I mean, we had group buying in China 20 years ago where people would come together and 1,000 people would go to a store and say, we want that TV, give us a better deal. We just now see a bunch of people gather and make a decision, and the open market is the open market.
Well, but that's what I was going to ask you, Gary. The open market is the open market, but there have been rules that the SEC has had in place for decades now about groups, and it historically was about trying to prevent investors, professional investors mostly, from creating groups where they would own more than 5% of a stock. Obviously, there have been idea dinners for years and things like that hedge funds have engaged in, and people have questioned whether these types of groups are forming informally. Now they're gathering somewhat in the public, though I do think some of this is going on in private as well. Do you think that the laws have to change?
You know, that's not for me to say. If the laws change, then people adjust to the reality of it, right? But I would also talk about, you know, you've got an entire another movement of decentralized finance, alternative variables. I mean, I'm just shocked, Andrew, by the naivete of how big technology has an impact on society. I mean, the things will never be the same. The cat's out of the bag. I would call these selective stocks and rallying behind them minor technology shifts compared to what's going to happen going forward.
But Gary, here's the question. If you're the CEO of GameStop, or let's say you're the CEO of rocket companies, should you therefore today immediately try to issue as many shares as humanly possible to collect on this, if you will? And would you consider that unto itself to be manipulation? Because this is where it gets very complicated very quickly.
You know, I think you can agree with me. There's been manipulation with small groups, and now we're seeing manipulation with big groups. For me, if I'm Rocket and GameStop, I'm trying to think about how to innovate my business to capture, you know, momentum. If I'm GameStop, talking about something we may talk about, I'm thinking about how to mint NFTs around original IP I create around, you know, game culture and collectible culture, not necessarily the Wall Street dynamic, but actually taking advantage of the momentum to actually innovate to create real business dynamics.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.